Welcome back, guys, to For the Republic. I'm your host. As always, we are welcoming back from the Wagner Group from Russia. By the way, I told everybody you were in Russia last episode for the insurrection,
Yeah, I
for
saw
the coup, and you're back. You weren't
that.
arrested. Everything worked out fine, and because we did
Yeah,
2 episodes without you, so people were wondering like, where is he?
yeah. I just got back from my expensive $5 million private jet. As you can see, like my eyes are very droopy and tired.
Yeah, he was on Epstein Island. That's where he was.
But I'm safe.
Yeah, he's
Putin,
safe. He came back safe from.
Putin knew that I was there, and he gave me some security guards. And yeah, I'm
Because you're the
well known
bottom
in
G.
Russia.
Because you're the bottom G.
Yeah, I'm the bottom G.
The bottom G. No top, only bottom. All right. Thank you again to everybody in Angola. We're number 3, by the way. We're still number 3 in Angola in news and politics.
How come we're not number one?
I don't know. Actually, we're gonna ask you. You should ask that to the people in Angola. But anyways, we're still number 3. So thank you to Angola. All right. So we're gonna get into this episode. We're gonna start with the Supreme Court. Busy week for the Supreme Court as they ended their term.
Yeah,
They're on break now.
right.
And 2 cases. The first one was the loans, the student loans. Pretty much they ruled that the ruling is that Biden does not have the authority to defer the payments or cancel debt on any loans. And
Does he
so
have to go through the Senate for all that?
no, yeah, pretty much that the authority, yeah, he doesn't have the authority to pretty much cancel debt. He has to go to Congress. Congress has to make a law canceling the debt.
Right.
Pretty much that's the ruling. People are like people who don't know how to read, because these are opinions. You can read that. You can read what they say and you can hear what they say. They're
Hmm.
all like, the Supreme Court hates people. It's like, no, it doesn't really care about people. It doesn't hate them, but it also doesn't care about them. It's like, no, it doesn't it doesn't care about your feelings. It's just saying that, hey, the law is that you can't cancel debt through executive action. It has to be done through Congress. Mainly because if people actually know how the loans work, the loans are pretty much set through Congress. Congress sets the interest rates. That's how it works. Like the president has really nothing to do with it except that it's managed through the Department of Education, and they're the ones who sell those debts to the people who collect them later, like Nelnet or Navion or whatever. There's a bunch of them.
Right.
That's how it works. Not that the president tells you. It's not like Biden is not there sitting there saying that I want to give Karen Deet 5,000 for educate for his college at 3.5. Like that's not what he's doing. So he can't cancel debts that he has no authority to, that he hasn't given out, obviously, or that's up to Congress. So it has to be an act of Congress to do that. Obviously, like all the other issues, the same thing with abortion. It's like with abortion. What do they say? It has to be done through Congress. If you want Roe v. Wade, the not Roe v. Wade, but if you want what Roe v. Wade does, that has to be done through the Congress, not through executive actions or through the Supreme Court. The Supreme Court is not there to legislate, which is again also what they're saying. But the people in Congress, because they don't want to do their job and they don't want to put their they don't want to put their foot on the line, stick their foot in the sand, and put it all on the line and say, hey, we're going to do this. What do they tell you? The Supreme Court's political. No, they're telling you that you have to do your job, that you have to be. Why don't you go out there and make abortion laws and cancel the debt? Like that's why the majorities matter. If you could do things through the court, majorities wouldn't matter,
Right.
because just let the court do it. But the court says the court don't have the right to do it, and the president can't cancel debt. The court is pretty much saying this has to go back to Congress, and Chuck Schumer, he's the leader of the Senate, has to go make a bill saying he's going to cancel debt. And they could have done this really if they cared. They know this. They're pretending they don't know this. They know this. The Democratic senators know this. Those people are lawyers. Chuck Schumer, surprisingly, is a lawyer. Like, they know this. They know they're supposed to make the laws to cancel debt, to codify Roe v. Wade, to make affirmative action
Is he
legal.
really a lawyer?
They went to school. That's all I can say. But that was the first case. that they lost their minds over.
Hmm.
And then, and then the second one was the one where they really lost their minds, which was
Yeah,
affirmative action.
that was an interesting one.
That was the one that they were really, because I don't think they expected it. And I know conservatives had been talking about it, and they say we need to end it. And but I don't think we've been talking about it through we're going to sue to take it to court, because this is a more recent case. This Harvard, North Carolina, this was a more recent case where um, pretty much, Asian students were feeling that they were being discriminated against when they were applying, and that because they were Asian, they were not being let in
Hmm.
through affirmative, apparently according to like affirmative action, or that they were using their race against them, because they wanted more blacks and Hispanics who weren't obviously qualified. That's the other thing with affirmative, and we'll break that down. But the ruling pretty much sets that schools cannot use race as a manner of discriminating who can get in and who can't get into their colleges. That's
Right,
pretty much
right,
basic.
yeah,
You want to like just put it on basic terms. The universities can't discriminate. Now, the ruling does not apply to military academies, so they can. They can, but that's a little bit different. You're not going to a military academy just for education. You're going obviously to serve a purpose afterwards. So it's like two different arenas in a way. Um, and then everyone freaked out because I don't know if you saw the tweet by a former Obama intern. I think she worked. I think she had a permanent role as like a staff member, but she worked for Obama, and she put out a tweet pretty much saying what we know they're saying, but they don't want to say. She said the quiet part out loud, which was like, blacks can't get into college without affirmative action because they're not qualified.
Oh, I
That's why
saw that one. No,
they
I
can't
saw
get on
that
their
one.
own. You saw that one.
Right,
That's the
right,
one.
right. That's how they
That's the
think. That's really sad.
That's exactly how they think. That's a good point. That's exactly how they think. And they don't want to say that. They keep saying that it's because we love minorities. They don't love minorities. They love black people because they want the black vote.
Yeah,
That's
exactly.
where because whenever you talk about affirmative action, who do you hear talking about Hispanics and like Asians are technically a minority, and Hispanics too. But it's always about black people. It's always about black people. That's what I feel. That's what I hear. That's what I
Hmm.
hear from them. It's
Hmm.
like, well, what about the black people? It's like, well, what about everyone?
Yeah,
Because
but
if you
everyone
care
else.
about everyone, what about all the other minorities? What about the Native Americans and the Asians and the Hispanics you care about? We care about them, but what about the black people? It's like, well, more blacks get into college than Hispanics. Shouldn't you care? Where's the affirmative action for the Hispanics? Where's the Hispanic Lives Matter? More blacks graduate from college than Hispanics. More blacks get secondary degrees, graduate degrees than Hispanics. Where's that affirmative action? But that's beside the point.
Hmm.
It is a big hypocrisy. It's just all
Oh,
hypocrisy,
it is.
But yeah, that's what they were saying, and so they're freaking out, and they're pretty much saying, I saw some people that we know, by the way, posting on like social media, like I hate Republicans. It's like, what did we do? Like I didn't write that decision up. I wasn't. I'm not on the court. I'm not an attorney. Like, what do
I
you
don't know
mean?
why
Like,
they think it's a bad thing. It is actually a good thing. Like, why are they?
because they don't like merit based. Because to them, merit based anything is oppressive. Because they're saying that you're telling me that my blackness can't get me a job. I'm black. That's.
Say it like that?
But that's pretty much what they mean. Then that's exactly what they mean when they say that. That's
My blackness can't get me a job.
yeah, literally. Like my blackness can't get me a job. Well, yeah, that's literally what we're talking about. No, but they don't like merit based anything. If you ever notice, it's remember all that they do is based. It's all on that like famous tag that they had a couple years ago where it was like demography is destiny, and it's like their race is essential to them. So that's why you hear black people talking about like, well, after I'm a black culture and black language, and
Oh,
why are you trying to appropriate
yeah.
my things? It's like
Right.
that's who they are. They don't have anything else to them. That's who they are as people. That they're black. It's like saying like, oh, what type of person are you? I'm a black person. No, like, are you like an outgoing person? Are you like indoorsy? Do you like to read? I'm black. No,
I think those are the same kind of people that just have nothing in their life, like no
exactly,
talent, no none of that.
exactly. That's my point. It's like there's nothing to them except their race. It's like if I asked you, like, if someone asked you, like, hey, what do you like doing? Oh, I'm a black person, so I like doing black people stuff. What? But if I tell them, like, oh, so you like fried chicken and watermelon and you like grape juice, are you racist? How dare you appropriate my black people stuff? It's like, no, that's not the point. That you're the one saying this. You're the one promulgating this racism because it is racist.
Yeah,
It
it
is
is.
racist
It is.
to say that I'm black, so everything about me is what all black people do. And then it's like, black people aren't all criminals. Yeah, but you're saying that everything about you is what black like. You know what I mean? Like, just follow the game here. Like, if everything about your community is the stereotype because you're black, and that's what's essential. It's that, yeah. If most black people commit homicides, yes, then you're also a murderer. Like, I'm following your logic. It's very flawed, but it's your logic. So no, they don't like merit-based anything. So they don't like the fact that you have to work hard to get anywhere. And those Asian people, like, again, and it's not that all Asians go to college because they don't. Not all Asians go to college. Not all Asians graduate, get a degree, a secondary degree. That's not like the case either. Because if you look at like if you look at the people who are graduating from college, it's not all Asians, obviously. Not
Mm-hmm.
every Asian person in America has a bachelor's degree. That's not
I mean,
that's
it's
just
not
not
even
how it
all
is.
white either. Yeah.
Exactly. Not even all whites. And there's something really twisted about that also. It's like that affirmative action, because it doesn't apply just to college. It applies to the workplace too.
Oh yeah.
So it's something
That's a
very
lot in the
twisted of the
workplace.
fact that you have to have these set amounts of people because of affirmative action.
Bro, I was dealing with that at my last job. And I was working for the city in Plainfield.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, the director was black, said that he didn't want to hire any white people because he wanted to create diversity. Well,
Exactly. It's like
isn't whites also diverse? Like it doesn't
you
make
don't
any
have
sense.
it's you should ask the question, like, do you
So
have
you're
white people here?
basically so you're basically hiring me because I'm Indian because I have a different kind of
Because
color.
you're not white. Because you're not
Exactly.
white. Exactly. And it's like the other question is like, well, do you have any white people here? It's like, yes, or like, they don't. They don't have any white people there. Then it's like, well, shouldn't you hire one for diversity?
Exactly.
That's why, like, I always felt like diversity was just like all this talk is really just anti-whiteness, and we're not white, but we're like anti-racism. We're legitimately anti-discriminatory, which they don't like. We're actually anti-discriminatory. Where it's not that we love white people. It's like we don't want to hate them. Why are you being racist to them? Why are you
They're also the
discriminating
same
them?
kind of people that say that we bend the knees for white people. Well,
No, we don't.
there's a
We're
lot
just
of white people that I kind of don't like. So
No, we're just legitimately what you claim you are. So you're saying that you're anti-racist? No, you're racist and we're anti-racist because we're not sticking up for white people. We're sticking up for the whole group. And if we notice that black people want to oppress white people on the basis of that they've been victimized over 400 years, by the way, many of them today have not. It's like, yeah, you're trying to put down white people to put up black people. That's racist. That's obviously racist. And
yeah,
we're anti-racist. What you say you are, but you're not. That's really the most twisted thing about it. When um when let me just get back to the case before I move on. So the case obviously says that, like, if you want to codify this type of discrimination, that, yeah, you have to do it through Congress. But through, like, this order, through how it's been done now, is not is not legal. It's not right. It's not the right. You can't discriminate, and it's not discriminate in a negative sense because people discriminate every day. You discriminate
yeah,
when you sleep who you want to sleep with. You discriminate who you want to be friends with, not the race, but the type of people. And that's why people don't have, like, their minds have been programmed to think it's all racial. If you've noticed, everything's racial. Everything's racial. So, like, if someone gets fired and he happens to be black, it was always because he's black. Is that why he got fired? It's like, no, it's maybe because he's bad at his job, or maybe because I can't afford to have him on the payroll anymore. Like, there's reasons for things. There's other qualities, other aspects to things in life other than race. But people don't comprehend that nowadays because everything's so racial. Everything's so
yeah.
racial.
Sadly, yep.
Yeah. So they're saying you can't discriminate or choose people to get in or out of college again because of their race. So you can't say Juan is getting in because he's Hispanic over Lee, who's Chinese, because we don't want Asians, we want more Hispanics, even though Lee has a way better SAT scores, has a better GPA in high school, did way more volunteering, was potentially a student athlete, or was in clubs, over Juan, who may not, not saying that Juan is bad in college, but is not as good as Lee. But because he's Hispanic, you're saying, you know what, we don't want Asians, we want Hispanics, we need this one. So that's what they're trying to say. Like, and if you read the case, it wasn't clear cut. They were actually, they like, if you read the opinion, and I read some of the opinion, not all of it, because it is like over 200 pages. But they outlined the hiring, they outlined the enrollment process in Harvard. So it's like a scale. So like there's points to this. There's points, and if you qualify, like you get qualified based on points, and you can, uh, for either one, there's like 6 points is the max and 10 points is the max. If you're at 10, you're in. If you're at 6, you should get in. And they're like not based on race. They're based on academics. They're based on SAT test scoring. They're based on extracurriculars. They're based on family information. They're based on different things.
Mm-hmm.
Like everything we heard when we were going to college, they tell you like, hey, you should volunteer, you should do clubs, you should learn language, you should have other aspects outside of your grades. Those are also qualifiers. Those give you points. What it doesn't get in there isn't like you don't get 2 points if you're black. You know what I mean?
Right.
Like you don't get 5 points if you're Asian or Hispanic. Like that's not in there. But they try to fit it in there because, of course, the quotas and the diversity aspect.
I mean, I'm not. Yeah, I mean, I'm not a huge fan of it either. It's like I don't care if I get the advantage or not. It's like you're undermining my kind of knowledge. You're thinking that I'm pretty stupid, and so I can take the advantage of it because of my skin color. Like I'm not a huge fan of that stuff. So they kind of do that a lot when it comes to black people, and it's really annoying. And it
Yeah.
and it annoys me that they don't even look at it either. They don't look at it from
No.
that side of perspective. They said that because we've been undermined by white people so many years, we should get that chance because they think that white people get so many benefits. It's like no, they
I
don't.
heard someone on a comments on I was on LinkedIn, and there was like a comment. There was like they were posting about it on, and somebody said a black person was like, well, I'd rather get hired because I'm black than not hired because I'm black. It's like, well, what difference does that make?
What does that mean?
It's like they would rather get hired because of their race than not get allowed access to like get the job because of their race. Which, by the way, is really the same thing if you think about it. It's like I got hired because I'm black, but I didn't get the job because I'm black. Isn't that's the same thing? It's just that there's a different outcome. But the pretense, the way you're like your thought process in the hiring process is the same regardless of the outcome. That's the problem. So they're looking at the outcome but not looking at the process. The process is racist. That's what they're trying to tell you. The process is racist. The outcome, yeah, you have a job. That's good for you. But you realize that the process in which people are getting these jobs is racist. That they're essentially saying that I'm hiring you because you're black, not because you're qualified, not because I like you, because you're black. That's racist. That's obviously racist.
That is.
And those Asian students, what I like about the fact that the lawsuit is that it didn't come about is because we're not being accepted because we're like because they're racist. Like yes and no, they're just trying to say that we're also a minority and we're not being allowed into schools because of our race, and other races are getting priority within the minorities. So like blacks are getting in when they shouldn't be getting in because we're racist. Not because we're racist, because we're Asian. Because we're Asian. My bad. That's what they're saying. So like they're not coming from like this like when you hear with black people, it's like everybody's racist and there's the institutional racism, and blah blah blah. And I need like they're not coming from that angle. They're coming from the angle is that there's something wrong because the process is racist. They're not saying the outcome is racist. They're not trying to say that those black people are racist or that they're just saying that hey, the process, which is what I like about it. Because when you hear about like when you mostly black people, it's like the outcome is I like the outcome even though the process is racist. But when I don't like the outcome, the whole thing is racist. You see that game? So
Yeah.
it's like they like it when A is with A. They don't like it when A equals B. B meaning they don't get the job. So like, but A is the problem. A is the problem. That's what they don't like. So
Right.
yeah, it's interesting because there is a darker side that people don't realize. Like if you keep this going on, and I'm seeing it. Like if you go to like Stanford admissions over this like past year or 2 years, they're like taking less white people less white people who are like non-legacy, and legacy means like famous parents or like athletes, stuff like that, like from like wealthy families. That's not that's legacy.
Oh,
Non-legacy is
interesting.
like legacy is also like the child of an alumni or like like favorable positions, like if your family gives
Right.
money or like you're a celebrity or if you're like this or if, like you're like a star athlete. That's legacy. Non-legacy is normal people like you and me. Like if we apply, take the test, do whatever, and try to get in, they're taking less white people non-legacy than they ever had.
Just white
Like
people.
white people, like they're taking less non-legacy white people. Like there's more legacy white people than non-legacy. Meaning there's more
Oh,
people getting in, not for their merit, but for other things other than that they're good students, than if they're good students. So less good white students are not getting into Stanford, and uh, they're actually bragging about that. They're bragging about the fact that they have this diverse and that there's more minorities in there than ever. And it's like you're bragging that you're being openly racist to a group that donates a lot of money to in return, because when these white people get these jobs and become high powering, they donate back to the universities and their children become the legacy students. But they're just outright denying them. And they're like, it's racist, obviously. They're denying them. And they're really hurting their own system in the long term.
oh, for sure.
And then there's this other aspect to it. Thomas Sowell talks about it a lot when he talks about education. And it's that thing about the quality over the quantity. So like you've heard about it. You can have as many minorities if you want, but if they're not all qualified, then the quality of what you're doing, if you're offering a service, if you're like getting an education, is going to be shittier. It's going to be bad.
Mm-hmm.
So like it
Interesting.
doesn't matter how many black people go to college if they're not qualified to get into that college. So he did a study pretty much saying that like yes, black people can go to Harvard. There are some qualified, but not all of them. And if you try to institute that to say that you've heard this too, because it happens in hiring when they do like these hiring quotas for diversity.
Oh, for sure. Yeah.
And so, and you hear this a lot, like in the women men pay gap. You hear this theme come up on our side. It's like, okay, like if you have 10 black people who want to get into Harvard, two out of the 10 are going to be qualified, are going to be, well educated. They're going to have the highest test scores, going to have the GPA, like everyone else getting in. But because of this type of policy where you have to put people into college because of like, a quota,
Mm-hmm.
you're just fitting them in despite them not being prepared for the academia or for the the rigors of like the academia or like the how difficult it is in that school. And so two out of the 10 are great, but the other eight they're smart, they're not stupid, but they would be very well at other schools that aren't Harvard.
Right.
But because you're fitting them in there, it's like you're setting them up for failure. They're not prepared for Harvard. They're not dumb, but they're not ready for Harvard. And when they go to Harvard, because they're not ready, they've gotten in because they're black on the basis of diversity. You set them up for failure because they're not going to score well. They're not going to score as well as everyone else, including the two black people that got in, for example. You know what I
Mm-hmm.
mean?
Mm-hmm.
So you're setting them up for so the quality of their education will not be fulfilled because they're not prepared for that type of level of difficulty. Not saying that they have to go to like Keene University, which is for stupid people. I'm just saying that instead of going to Harvard, maybe they can get into NYU. Maybe they can go to Boston College. Maybe they can get into Notre Dame. Maybe they can go to Rice or some other college. Like they don't have to go to Harvard. Maybe they can get to a not a lower, like it's a lower school obviously, but not like the lowest school. And so they score badly when they go to Harvard, but those kids who have the same level, they've done studies, when they go to schools like, Ohio State, Northwestern, Notre Dame, NYU, Columbia, even, they do well. They do well. And they're the same kids that scored very well, but didn't score as well as the other kids that did go to Harvard. You understand what I'm saying?
Yeah. Yeah.
So
Isn't there a specific college or university in New York where they're doing the same thing, but they're undermining more Asians?
I think it's Columbia.
Because
I think it was
okay.
Columbia. Yeah, I think it was Columbia.
Yeah,
So
because I heard like they're talking about how more Asians are succeeding more in college in New York than any other group. But I know there was a specific college or university that was doing that. I just don't
I think
remember
it's
which one.
Columbia. I think it might
Might
be
be.
Columbia. No, but there's a history, and Thomas Sowell, you can look into it afterwards. He like does studies of pretty much like formerly, because remember, like there's a point in our history where black kids in America were doing very well in education, and they were like elite black high schools.
Right.
I think it's like Stuyvesant High School in like I don't know if it's Washington or in like Harlem or something. I think Brooklyn Tech, I think, was like at one time like a predominantly black high school that like did very well. Like these were elite kids that could go off to places like Georgetown and Harvard on their own merit, because they were well educated. They were able to succeed in that difficult category of education. But over the years, obviously, because of all these policies and really the culture, it really started with culture too, which we don't talk about a lot.
Yeah.
Like their education went down, their level of education went down, and so they're not qualified as they used to be able to go to Harvard. And so these schools, more of these kids in formerly elite black high schools, more of the kids that are graduating now are Asians and whites in New York City. And a lot of these are, by the way, in New York City. So like I think Stuyvesant High School is in New York City. A lot of like it used to be a black elite school. Now a lot of black kids don't graduate at the top of their class, or like most of the class isn't black and like very intelligent, because the education standards in that community have gone down. It's more it's more Asians and whites graduating from that school than it is blacks, which is crazy to think about. It was only 40 years ago, 50 years ago. And Thomas Sowell does a lot of those studies, and the fact that he's ignored, is like it's like a shame, because those are really like that
No,
really outlines how affirmative action doesn't really benefit people in the ways that they think it benefits people. No.
no,
And I want to get to the workforce part of it before we move on to our next segment. But also it's the hiring, because you hear about the diversity quotas.
yeah,
Like you need to have this certain percentage of your workforce. You need to have this certain amount of people that are black, Hispanic, Asians, Indians, for example, etc. And so my thought is that, okay, if before the diversity quotas came in, you had, let's say you had 70% of your workforce was white, 70%. And you're now saying that you need to have it almost equal, where it's like white and minority. What do you do with that 20%?
it's all black.
Well, what happens to the 20% of white people that have to pretty much now be turned into the minority camp?
I know the Amazon that I used to work was doing the same shit, and like it was
No, the answer is they get fired. They get
no,
fired.
no, yeah,
You have to
but
fire them.
I know, yeah, but the Amazon that I used to work at, they try to balance out the racial group as well. But it was mostly like Hispanics and Indians rather than it wasn't even a lot of blacks either. But
And
it was
so
like
what did they do
less
to do it?
whites. It was less whites, but it was more Indians. It was more Hispanics, and
And what did
they
they do to fix that?
nothing.
No,
It was
no.
it
How
was
did
just
did
like
they
that.
fire people? Did they
No,
fire people?
a lot of people quit. They didn't get. Well, not a lot of them got fired, but a lot of them quit. So
Why did they quit?
they probably couldn't handle the work.
Okay. Well, yeah, but that's affirmative action for you. That's pretty much it. And so, well, like my case is like if you have a company, it's established, these policies come into effect, and now you have to like reorganize your workforce on the basis of race to accommodate some insane leftist, sissy boy in Washington. Now, like you're gonna have to fire people. That's the answer. You're gonna have to fire people. And if America, which is majority white, is now being told that they have to accommodate, like, because at some point you can't hire more people. You just can't. You can't hire enough people. So if they're saying that like we're close to full employee, like we're at the max occupancy for employees. Like let's say we're fully hired. I can't hire more people either because I can't afford it, or because at some point if I hire too many people, it's going to be crowded on and we're in the office. Like I can't fit more people here. There's not
Mm-hmm.
enough business for me to hire more people either. Not saying that things are slow, but like I've reached the potential. I've reached the maximum potential I have for like the people I'm going to hire.
Right.
The only answer is you have to fire people, because it's not like you can turn people into women. Like you make them trans. You can't turn someone black. You can't turn someone Hispanic. Like yeah, like you can paint them black, but that's not really black. You can give them a sombrero, but that's not really Hispanic. The answer is you have to fire people. So if the majority of the country, America, is white, and most companies are probably gonna, because most companies, by the way, they do hire based on like it kind of always kind of resembles the demography of the country. If it's majority white, if it's a majority white country, you should expect majority white workforces, right?
Mm-hmm.
Typically. So now, if every other country in America has to conform to hiring these people by force, because by the way, it's not like they're not hiring Hispanics and blacks. They're just not saying that 100% of my workforce is black,
Yeah.
right? Because there's not enough black people in the workforce. That's the other issue that they don't want to talk about. There's not enough qualified. Like if you're a tech company, you hear this most in tech. If you're a tech company and you need more engineers, how many black engineers are there out there that are qualified to do the job? Like how many black people are graduating from tech in tech? Not a lot. The answer is not a lot, and we know this. Not a lot. There's mostly Asians and whites in that profession. The answer isn't to force people to hire black people, even though they may not be qualified again to do the job. Same thing as the education thing. It's you should like incentivize more black people to get into college for tech in STEM instead of like telling them, oh, you can be an English major. Yeah, you can go to do education. You should go be like a social studies major. Like
Or
encourage, like
against sports.
incentivize them to go into STEM, which will get them which will make more tech people. And so yeah, that's kind of the thing because what you're gonna cause if you keep firing people, like what they did is like they fire people because they're white and they need to accommodate, is that all there's gonna be a bunch of white people that are unemployed
Mm-hmm.
because they're white. It's not because they did a bad job, it's because hey, the government is forcing us to hire minorities, even though you did nothing wrong, you're not racist. We do have blacks and Hispanics and Asians working here. They're just not 50% because that's just no. We're not looking to they're not hiring people on the basis of their skin. It's just that that's how the labor market worked out.
Yep.
And so now that they're being penalized, and so white people are getting fired because they have to come. So that's the ugly part they didn't want to talk about that people don't talk about. So what happens to the people you have to replace because you have to put in these minorities? Because they like to make it seem that these companies can hire you because they can hire more people. Sometimes they can't. So they have to get rid of the people they have. What does that mean? You have to fire them. You have to fire them. Yeah.
That's pretty sad. But yeah, I was surprised that Scotus did that. So pretty good.
Yeah. All right. So yeah, the education part is pretty simple. The student loan canceling it is not going to fix anything. We've talked about it on I think on a Patreon episode. The problem with the student debt is the cost of college. Is that it's too expensive per semester to go to college per year to go to college. It's too expensive. I mean, there's graphs out there pretty much outlining um, the cost of education over the years and how it's pretty much the cost of college tuitions have like skyrocketed. I think it's like over like 100%. How they've pretty much doubled or tripled. I think from like the
Hmm.
1970s when it was affordable to go to college. Like you could like have a college like a 4 year college degree for like $20,000 and it was payable. Like you could pay that off. But people are not going to college. A year is like 40. Like I went to college where I went, my yearly tuition was in the 40s. Like at one point, I did go to college for like my first
A
semester.
year?
The tuition a year was $51,000.
What?
Obviously, I had scholarships and loans
All right.
and grants, but like that's the total bill. Like the total bill is 51. The next year it was like 48, and then it went lower because I went to Drew University. They did do a thing where they lowered it to like 30 something, plus the fees, obviously. Where like, yeah, like at the end of the bill, it was like if you were like not living there, it was like at 41, 42, which is manageable, but still pretty high.
Mm-hmm.
It's the cost of college. The cost of college is too high, and like they like to blame it on the like it's the quality of education. It's really the cost of hiring. It's really like it's not the professors, it's the administration. The administration of a college is too expensive, so they're paying the college. There's like a lot of administrators, like college officials, and more like there's more administrators than professors at this point in most
Right.
colleges, and they get paid more than the professors a lot of times, and so that rises up the cost of college. I also had a suggestion, just to put it out here. If the government's handing out these loans, why not make them interest? Why not make them interest free? That's really what I thought. Or like bake in the interest into the principal loan that you pay. Don't tell them that, hey, we're going to increase, you're going to pay monthly interest each. That's what I would say. Like, it is a government program. It isn't a private bank, but because it is and it isn't. But because they give these loans out to private companies to collect them, they hire an interest.
Mm-hmm.
I would say, why not just outfit it, let the government collect these? Let the government collect them these things, and not make interest. Like, and I get people are gonna say, but where's the profit? Well, there's like some things you shouldn't really some government things shouldn't really be about profit. Is the military about profit? It shouldn't be. It shouldn't be. Is education about profit? Not necessarily. Not necessarily. So, um, it's really more about the how it functions. Like, yes, sometimes that's why you wouldn't privatize the military.
Or
That's what. It's not about profit. It's about, you know, the government's going to do that best. The government's going to do the military best. I'm sorry. You know what I mean? And I'm a conservative, but I'm not a libertarian that says, "Oh, just let people figure it out." No, they can't figure it out. No, that's where they get me wrong. And so, that's just my suggestion. Why not make college loans instead of making them loans? Just make them like no interest loans, where you or like even potentially forgivable, right? Like if you're like that's what I would say. Like if I'm a presidential candidate, I would say, and you can gain votes, and this would do very well to calm people down because remember, the left is using this as a way to get votes and a way to make things more they're really just making more tension,
mm-hmm.
more hatred. Because remember, what do they say? It's the Republicans that hate black people. It's the Republicans that hate poor people. They're using this to stoke flames of division.
Yeah.
And so you could really say, hey, we're not going to cancel loans, but we're going to make them we're going to make them interest free. So you don't have to, because the interest really do hurt people. The interest they do hurt because some loans, I get it, some loans don't carry interest when you're in college, but some of them do. Some of them do carry interest when you're in college. And I get it. It's very low percent. 3%, 5%. At this point, it's like 3%. I know some people bragging about that. I have the 1.7. Nobody has the 1.7
Wait,
nowadays.
it's like 3% right now?
Yeah, well, some of my loans are at 3%. Some of my loans are even at like 4%,
Okay.
close to 5% a month, like yearly. But
Right.
that goes up every month, and so people have to pay that, and so that does add up. If you don't have a job, and some of the loans, the interest starts as soon as you start college. Some of the loans don't. But hey, if you're there for 4 years at 4% interest in 4 years, and you don't pay those loans off in the 4 years, obviously because you don't have the money, it's like that's going to add up. So like when you get out of college, you're talking about thousands of dollars in interest alone that you're going to have to pay off, and it's interest upon interest. So it's
That's a
not the four
lot.
percent on the 5,000 you got. It's the 4% on the whatever the amount is now.
Holy shit! What the
So
fuck?
because that's how it works. That's how credit cards work. You're not paying your interest on on your base amount. You're paying
Yeah.
the interest on what the balance is, which includes interest.
Mm-hmm.
That's
Mm-hmm.
how it works. And so, yeah, I would say, well, why can't you do that for college students? If you know they're poor, if you know they're vulnerable, if they don't have a job, obviously, not that they're vulnerable, but they don't have a job, they don't have steady income, they don't have a degree, obviously, because that's why they got the loan. Make it interest free for all of them. That's really what I think. And you'll see that they'll pay you back instead of all these people not paying back and defaulting on their college loans. Because that's what you're going to see if people can't pay their loans. They're just not going to pay them. They're not going to pay their
Right.
college loan because they have to pay rent, they have to live. So if you say, hey, yeah, we're going to give you $5,000 for this is going to be your $5,000 loan for this year, right? For this year, we're giving you $10,000. Let's just say $10,000 for this year. Both semesters. Yeah, don't pay. You're not going to pay interest on it. Just know
Mm-hmm.
that in 30 years you're going to have to pay us back the $10,000 for this year, or in 5 years, or whatever payment plan you make. That's my suggestion. Just make them no interest loans. Easy.
Yeah.
You'll fix the problem. And if a Republican did that, it'd be great because Democrats would hate that. That's our
Why?
vote. They would hate you. They would hate you if you did that. The Democrats would be like, how dare you take our vote? that's what they would do. So, all right, we're gonna move on to the next topic. Our next topic is RFK. I don't know if you saw, he had
RFK Junior.
Robert F. Kennedy Jr. and he did two town halls this week.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't know if you saw them. One was in New Hampshire for a local New Hampshire for the, I guess like it's a cable company, like a news channel, like a channel in New Hampshire.
Okay.
And then the other one was News Nation. Now you know
Oh,
News Nation is like this.
so the other one was more like a local one.
The first one he did in New Hampshire was more like local. It was like more for people in New Hampshire.
Okay.
It's targeted towards New Hampshire people, but the videos were on YouTube, and I saw a lot of those clips, and I thought and then the other one was News Nation, which was based out of Chicago, but it's really based towards Democratic voters in the primary. Both of them are really towards Democrats because it's the primary season for Democrats, technically.
Mm-hmm.
Officially, it should be. The Democrats are going to screw him over, as they always do.
Yeah.
But so he had those two what's that called? Those two town halls, and I don't know if did you see any clips about them? Did you see any clips of them? Have you seen some? No.
I saw a couple of them while I was at Russia.
Yeah. So I watched the News Nation one more than I watched the other one because the other one I guess there's like a barrier because you have to like be in New Hampshire I guess and pay for that channel to watch the
Mm-hmm.
full thing. But
Mm-hmm.
they released like I think over half of the town hall, more of the important positions, and and I saw he's also been like on podcasting tours. He was on the Bill
Yeah,
Maher.
I've noticed that. Yeah, noticed
He's
that.
been
Yeah,
he was friends. He's been friends with Bill Maher for a while now. That doesn't surprise me. Bill Maher's been a long life liberal.
I still haven't seen that yet. Actually,
Yeah, that was a pretty
I
good
want to check
one.
that out.
That was a pretty good one. Uh,
Mm-hmm.
you, Bill was trying to help him with like the vaccine stuff. Like, hey, let me help you. He doesn't agree with him, but he wants him to like, let's figure a way where you can look good on the vaccine stuff. Because most Democrats don't like it. Most
Well, okay.
Republicans,
So
I think, do.
what doesn't he agree on when it comes to the vaccine?
Well, they just see they as soon as someone questions vaccines, they're like, you're
You're
anti-vax.
anti-vax. Okay.
That's what they say. And so they're
Yeah.
they're blind. They don't really know how to read into what they don't know how to listen to what he's saying. And so Bill Maher kind of like read a New York Times article describing RFK recently, and the same things: conspiracy theorist, anti-vax. His family doesn't agree with him. There are people like his brother and sisters don't endorse him. They say that he's a danger to democracy. So they put all these things out there, right? And and then they want to make it stick. So they say like you're anti-vax and you're a conspiracy theorist. Get it?
Mm-hmm.
So that's what they say. And so he was trying to help him. So, anyways, in these town halls, I came away very impressed. Um, I'm a conservative. I'm not voting for a Democrat because he's a liberal. Those are two opposites. Um, what's funny is that he's very he has a in terms in foreign policy most of his foreign policy, and a lot of what he says about inflation and is very MAGA. Is very conservative. I'll put it that way. And it's pretty much what Trump says a lot of times. That's where he loses people, especially on Ukraine and Russia. He's going to lose them because he's
Mm-hmm.
very MAGA on Ukraine and Russia.
Right.
Very MAGA on Ukraine and Russia. Pretty much what we're all saying. Like he's pretty much saying that look, I want the United States to broker a peace deal, and the Democrats go insane. How dare
Yeah.
you?
So he's not picking and choosing
No, he's
who
saying
wins. He just wants a peace.
he
That's
wants
pretty
an
much it.
end.
So pretty much what Trump basically said.
Pretty much what Trump's saying. And by the way, not just also like exactly kind of what Trump is saying. Also, like, and he says it better than Trump. Sometimes I wish Trump would say this in the ways that RFK would say this because he says it better. He's also younger than Trump, and obviously not as he comes from a different background. Trump's not stupid, but he's
Trump
not
is
from this.
Trump. Yeah.
Trump is like, yeah, RFK is a lawyer, so he's very studious, and
Mm-hmm.
he's like, he comes from a very intellectual background where he reads up on all these issues. Trump's Trump's journey to these issues was I'm a worldwide businessman who does real estate in the most important city in the world, And I see this happening. I see this happening. And I don't like it. You know what I mean? So it's not that he studied on the issue, it's that he sees it happening. And he's been in the arena where he's seen it happening. So that's why. So they come to
Yep.
the same. They come to the same conclusions, but through different avenues. RFK has been reading the news and been reading books and articles over the
The other
past
one
couple
got
of
experience.
decades,
Yeah.
and so it's not even experience. It's like he hasn't done anything. He's just reading.
No, Trump.
And so Trump is like, I don't need to read it. I saw it. I've seen it.
Yeah,
I'm
yeah,
seeing what's going on. Like,
yeah,
I don't need to read that China is ripping us off on trade. I see that they're ripping us off on trade.
yeah. So
That's why they're kind
so
of different.
yeah. So I was basically saying like Trump is the one with experience, but the other one is kind of like reading it out pretty much.
Yeah,
Like
he's reading it
he's
out, and
not
he's not
in
wrong.
there. He's not in
He's
there.
not in
He's
there. He's
out.
not
He's
in there.
looking there. He's out there, but he's not in there to experience it.
No, he's not. He's like Trump is empirical research. Like in terms of research and how they research their issues, is that Trump is empirical. Empirical means that he sees it. So I see that Ukraine and Russia are in a war. I don't like wars because they kill people. Duh. I want to end it. And then
Right.
RFK is saying that I also like that, but I'm also saying that, X, Y, and Z, and that it's, how did we get here? And Trump kind of knows that, obviously, because he's seeing it. He sees it through like a business. He sees it through a cost benefit analysis. He sees that, because this is really the truth. Um, there was an agreement. They did have a sort of an agreement to prevent this type of war, and it's called the Minsk Agreement, where like Russia wasn't taking parts of Ukraine. It was just taking Crimea. It was making Crimea officially Russian and giving rights to the Eastern Ukrainians who are Russian. They're native Russian. They have family in Russia. We talked about this on a prior podcast,
Yeah,
and
we
that
did.
would prevent a
Yeah.
war. And that's the Minsk agreement. They both agreed to it. This this
Yeah.
this agreement was brokered by France and Germany, by with Putin and the Ukrainians. Zelensky likes the Minsk agreement before the war, by the way. He liked the Minsk agreement and he wanted to sign it. Who didn't want him to sign it? The neocons and the Democrats in the United States didn't want him to sign it. That's how we got to this war. Also, what got us to this war is, NATO and building up NATO and more countries in NATO, and pretty much this idea that we're going to ask, we're going to want, like, we want Ukraine in NATO, apparently. That's creating a conflict. So all of that led to this conflict. And Putin's kind of talked about it. He doesn't want NATO in Ukraine, obviously. Like, what if China put its alliance in Canada? Would we like it? No, we would be invading Canada immediately. Immediately. Yeah, it makes sense. And so he discussed all of that. And I like the fact that he was very clear, because the Democrats haven't heard this before. They haven't heard someone in their party who they like, who they really like, from a prominent family, because the Kennedys are a prominent family. They're Democratic
Mm-hmm.
royalty.
Mm-hmm.
Most Democrats love JFK and they love RFK. They just don't like this part about them, that one of the sons and nephews of their idols is telling them, hey, we used to, Democrats like, I'm a conservative, always have been. They like to pretend that they've always been the anti-war party. They like to pretend that they've always been the anti-war party, even though they've been the warmongering party for most of our history.
I
The
mean,
Republicans,
weren't
yeah,
they
we've
like that
been.
during Trump? They're like, oh, Trump's gonna start World War III.
Well, that's what they said, but it's
War.
like that's what they said. Now that they actually instigated this war, now they're saying that if you're against, and so what do they do to attack him? They say that he's a Putin apologist. That's what they say. They say, because they think of things like, this is what they think. They think that if you like, they don't see it in the aspect of that there's a war and we don't like killing and we're gonna end the killing.
Yeah.
They're saying that there has to be a winner and a loser. And so if you want to make a peace deal, that means that Ukraine has to lose. It's like, no. By the way,
Something worse like that.
yeah,
Yeah.
and it's like, and if I want a peace deal, and that means that you're going to give Ukraine to Putin or parts of Ukraine. You're a Putin apologist. How dare you?
It's not
That
how it
doesn't make any
works.
sense. That's not
Yeah.
exactly. That's not how it works. Exactly. You're exactly right. And so he also outlines the truth. I discussed it before an episode. There was a peace deal early in the war in 2021. Uh, Zelensky and Putin came to a peace agreement that looks a lot like Minsk Minsk 2. What we call it, like Minsk 2. The Minsk Agreement number 2. It looked a lot like that. Why did the peace deal not go through? Because Boris Johnson went to Ukraine on the behalf of the Washington and the Biden administration and told Zelensky that we would not support any peace agreements you make with Putin. Which makes us what? Obviously, the Dems are not the anti-war party. That's obviously it. That's the obviously. So RFK is pretty much telling them that, hey, we used to pretend we were the anti-war party. He believes that they were the anti-war party. As a conservative, that's bullshit. They've always been the war party. They've always been. Korea, Truman. FDR, World War II. World War I, Woodrow Wilson got us in there. War. Those are wars. You're the warmongering party. Iraq, cheer. The Democrats were cheerleaders for Iraq. Then look around there, Obama. He got 2 wars. He started 5 more. He had 7 wars. Where's the anti-war party? Like, I've always laughed when they say, "Where?" It's a joke. It's a complete joke. But I like the fact that he explained it in that clear manner. And I could see people in the audience just like listening, like, what? And he pretty much said, you're being lied to. They're being dishonest. They're hiding things from you.
It's something different from them because they always listen to the same old, from the Obamas, from Biden.
Exactly. That's my point.
It's the same thing. So like when they hear stuff from RFK, it's different.
Exactly. Because, and that's my point. He's a prominent Democrat with a big name. He's the son of RFK, the nephew of JFK. He's a Kennedy. He was a lawyer. He was an activist. He is an activist for the environment. And he is an activist for, against corporate greed. Like, he's a lawyer. He sued Monsanto. Like, he's anti-big pharma. These are things Democrats should love. But because he doesn't say what they want them to say, that's why they don't like him. And then also on the border, I loved what he said on the border. Immigration's also, he's very he's very Trumpian on the, I'm not saying MAGA because people are trying to hijack.
I saw that little clip, yeah.
He's very Trump in terms of immigration. You saw that where he talked about the wall?
Yeah. It was like, it's not that hard to just skirt.
It's not hard. Yeah. It's not hard. And he went to the border and he said the truth, what we've been saying. It's not just Hispanics anymore.
Oh, he went there too?
Asians. Yeah, he went there.
Oh, wow.
Well, he went there and he was there until 3 a.m.
Kamala, where the fuck you at?
No, where's Kamala at? He went until 3 a.m. He went to the border. He went to the worst parts of the border, by the way, where like in Arizona, where there's more people coming in. And he pretty much explained to them the realities because they like to tell you that like there's no problems there. And I loved how the News Nation lady was trying to say that like that's not true. You have to go to the border and seek asylum. And he said, no, that's not what's happening. That's legal if you want to come in legally. The illegal immigration, which is what we're talking about. We're not talking about 7 million people in 2 years from legal immigration. We're talking about 7 million people in illegal immigration. That's what we're talking about. That's what we've been talking about. That's what RFK is talking about. That's what these idiots don't realize. And so he shut her up. He said, no, that's if you want to come in legally. I'm talking about illegal. The illegal people, that's 7.5 million. They come in illegally. They're coming in, and the Border Patrol are not allowed to do anything. And I love how we talked about it. There used to be sensors in the ground that the Trump administration put up so that these people could be captured and sent back. What did Biden do when he came in? He took them all down.
Mm-hmm.
He took down all the sensors in the ground, in the air, to prevent these people coming in. The wall. He talks about that. Like, he realized. He said, before I didn't think I needed a wall. When I went there, I said, we need a wall. He did say, like, what I kind of agree with. I kind of agree with our candidate. We don't need wall everywhere. I would like a wall everywhere, but it's not practical. It's kind of this
I want a wall. I want a wall everywhere.
You want a wall everywhere, but it's not practical. This is why I kind of disagree.
Yeah,
it's not practical.
Yeah,
and so he's saying that he's pretty much saying he's going to finish a wall. He's going to finish a wall and put back the sensors and let Border Patrol do their job because right now there's a humanitarian crisis, and like he says, Democrats are supposed to care about fixing humanitarian crises, not creating them. And the Democrats in the room were just like, what? What? Oh, what? But that they can't say that's racist because that's a Kennedy. That's a Democrat. You're
Mm-hmm.
racist? No. I'm the least racist. You guys are racist for letting Hispanics go through this mess because you want them for political purposes.
Yeah, I mean,
And he hit
JFK
them. He hit
JFK
them,
wasn't called a racist, so it would be hard for people to believe that RFK Jr. is racist.
and he hit them where it matters most. He hit them with the sob story. He gave them an emotional story, which is true, by the way. There's a tree on the it's U.S. territory, but the border wall is right before it because it's very close to the Mexican border. It's called the rape tree. You can look it up. It's the rape tree. It's
Woo
on
tree?
the rape.
Okay.
It's the rape tree where the cartels. Why are you laughing?
The way you screamed rape was funny.
Rape.
The
What's so
rape.
funny about it? Because you can't hear. You're not listening. That's why.
It's a weird name. It's a weird name.
I'm going to tell you why they give it the name. Border Patrol is at the border, at the wall, and they can't go past that because the government won't let them. So the Democrats won't let them do their jobs, obviously. The rape tree is that gets that name because the cartels, when they bring people in and they traffic them
Right.
through the border, they bring them there, and that's when they collect their payment. Their payment in terms of the women that they traffic,
Mm-hmm.
the coyotes, they rape these women at this tree. And the border patrol, they see that like every day. And they like there's actually suicides. Like there's been I think 40 suicides this year from border patrol agents on the border because they
Wow.
see it and they can't do anything about it. They can't. They're not allowed to.
The
They can't
fuck?
stop it. They can't stop it. That's Democrats for you. That's a Democratic administration. That's why it's called the rape tree. All right, is it funny now, dumbass? Is it funny? Are you gonna laugh?
Shut the fuck up. Damn.
You were laughing. That's the story. So
Nah, it's sad, man. It's sad.
it is
Stop.
sad. It is
Damn.
sad. And so RFK used what they, you know how like they're all about. I love the feelings. I love feeling happy and sad, and I love the because I feel because that's how Democrats act. Every Democrat, I just feel like I'm just depressed because I feel like I'm being oppressed. I made that rhyme, and that's how they feel. That's how they feel. Every Democrat you talk to, most of them talk that way. And so he told them, hey,
Yeah.
the Democrats,
It's true.
yeah. And so he's telling you, hey, there's a humanitarian crisis on the border that the Democrats are creating and making worse, and we can stop it, and it's easy. And hey, feel sad because you're doing this. This is a sad story. So say, I want to help them now. I want to help the immigrants. That's what he's
Mm-hmm.
saying. That's pretty much what he's doing. He's playing their game. He knows them. He knows them, and he knows how to talk to them. And what I like about it is that he's real. That's why Trump and
Yeah.
RFK
He's
are
not
very
bought.
popular
Yeah, he's
because
not
he's
bought.
real. He's real. It's like when you talk to him, it's not. It's like that what he's saying is what he's thinking in their own ways.
Yeah, he's not bought. It's not like he's talking. It's not like you're talking to Elizabeth Warren. So,
No, or Ron DeSantis.
yeah, pretty much. Yeah.
Exactly. That's the key differences. That's why they'll never be popular. That's why they'll never be as popular because yeah, they do the stuff, but it's like we do know that's not real. You're doing the stuff for a reason.
Well, okay. So, a couple of questions. Um, do you think that RFK Jr. can be an eye opening for a lot of Democrat Party? So it's not about whether if it's a Democrat versus Republican. It's not because it's a white versus black issue. Do you think that
Yes.
that he can be an eye opener for a lot of Democrat Party that it's all about anti-establishment versus establishment?
What did I tell? Yes, he said yes. What did I tell you the other day? He's gonna red pill some people that are undecided independents.
Mm-hmm.
He's gonna
Yeah,
red pill them
right.
because he doesn't know this. He doesn't know this because as the more he talks about the economy, the more he talks about foreign policy, the more he talks about anti-war, the more he talks about the immigration, and the more he's led on to these big platforms like News Nation, which by the way is a big deal. It's a new channel that's
Right.
not trying to be as like mainstream media anymore. Um, as much as he does that, people are going to realize, wait a second, that's what Trump did. That's what Trump is saying in his
Right.
Trumpian way.
Right.
Exactly. So he's going to red pill people without him realizing it. And I'm a conservative. I don't give a shit about Democrats. I don't care if they're popular. I don't care. You know what I mean? So
Right.
I care about the conservative movement. And what he's talking about are actual conservative principles. They don't call us anti-war because we're open to war, but we're open to war for the right reasons. The Democrats like to pretend that they're anti-war and that we never get into war because we don't like killing. Your history doesn't really agree with you. The immigration, we don't want. You don't care if there's legal immigration. Yeah, legal immigration is good at a certain point. We don't want legal immigration. And so they're going to start hearing these things, and they're going to say, the Democrats are going to say, wait a second. Yeah, he's right. They're right. And the Republicans aren't actually crazy because that's what they're doing. And so in terms
Right.
of
Right.
establishment, anti-establishment, yeah, he's certainly going to be this way. Because the way he's being treated, they're going to see that. Because he's going to keep bringing it up. Biden doesn't want to debate me. They're not going to have primaries. They already said they're not having primaries. They said they're
Mm-hmm.
not having debates. They said they're not having debates. So he's not gonna. He's gonna say Biden doesn't want to debate me. This is anti-democratic. They should be debating me. They're
Didn't
not
Trump
gonna
say
have primaries.
didn't Trump say he didn't want to debate either?
He doesn't want to debate. That's a different reason, by the way. He does want to have the caucuses, though. He does want to have the votes. He doesn't want to get nominated again. He wants to
Right.
go.
Right.
He
Right. Right.
wants him to be. He wants there to be, an Iowa caucus, a New Hampshire primary, so he can prove to the rest of the field they still love me, not you. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
He wants to show. He wants to show them I'm beating you guys in North Carolina, South Carolina, New Hampshire, Iowa, Florida. He wants to beat DeSantis in Florida. He wants that. Trump wants that. Remember when Trump beat Rubio in Florida
Yeah.
in
Yeah.
2016? That was
Yeah.
embarrassing for Rubio. Imagine he does that to DeSantis in Florida.
Okay. Yeah. Yeah. No, that will also be embarrassing as well.
Exactly. So anti-establishment, yeah, because he's seeing everything because he's showing a contrast between what the Democrats could be and what they sort of were at some point, and this new Democrats, the Obamas, the Clintons, the Bidens, how corporate they are, how bought they are, how sinister they are, how extreme left they are, where it's like they're radicals and they're extreme, like the big pharma, where they're pretty much being bought up by pharma and not doing the real things. Because that's really where it comes with the test. Really, what the vaccine is, what he wants is like two things. It's like, can we get testing for vaccines the same way we do for every other medicine? And two, why are babies like, maybe can we look into why are we getting these many vaccines? Does a baby at 1 month or 3 days old need to get all these vaccines?
Mhm.
Like
All right.
like this amount, 72?
All right.
And for these diseases that they shouldn't be getting as a baby, like why does a baby need a hepatitis B vaccine? Hepatitis is a
Yeah.
sexual.
I think you did mention about that last time. How
Yeah,
they shouldn't give out that much of an amount for a little kid.
that's what he says. That's what he always says. He says it every
Shouldn't give him
time.
an
And
adult
so
size to a little kid. So like, yeah, yeah,
yeah,
that's true.
I totally agree with your point. Yeah, he'll be an eye opener for Democrats if they listen, if they want to listen, and if he gets on enough platforms. Like, if CNN did a town hall for RFK Jr., huge. We make fun of CNN, but that's huge. People are going to tune in. They're going to say, "Wow,
Okay, so you did mention that he'll probably repel a lot of the Democrat voters.
yeah."
Another question: do you think that since now because Democrat politicians do have that popularity, do you think it'll be like a nightmare for Trump if it were to happen, an RFK versus Trump?
Yes and no. Yes, yes, but not because of the Democrats. Yes, because of the independents. So
Right.
the 2016 and 2020 were won and lost because of the independents and suburban women, white suburban women who are pussies. Just gonna say it. Like, the fact that you voted for a brain dead man over this guy who did a good job before COVID,
Right.
even after COVID. And I remember after September, the economy started going back up again under Trump
Yeah, he still managed it. Yeah.
in 2020. Mid COVID, there was COVID, people were dying, blah blah blah. The economy went back up. People were getting their jobs back. People were starting to go back to work, starting to do well. The inflation was going down. This really happened because of Biden. So I really think it'd be difficult. I'm voting for Trump regardless.
Thing.
It's difficult because Trump is portrayed as too wild. He says a lot of things. He has baggage, quote unquote, right? RFK's baggage is that he's anti-vax and maybe a conspiracy theorist, right? Quote unquote. But because he'll be able to go out there if he is the nominee, and the Democrats will support him, they will because they hate Trump more than they don't like RFK. By the way, just know
Mm-hmm.
that
Mm-hmm.
they hate Trump, and if they see they can use RFK and then get killed afterwards, but they don't get Trump, they'd be okay with that because at least it's a Democrat. RFK,
That's fucked.
despite the voice, yeah, despite the voice, despite the voice, which has been getting better, by the way. I like in the Newsmax, it sounded very well. He's been doing better. He had an operation in Japan, which is why he sounds better, and that's great. Um, I think he'll do better because he's able to communicate in a way clearer manner, and he's able to
Mm-hmm.
put out his policies in a way clearer and better fashion.
Mm-hmm.
Trump can't. Trump says, "I did the job and I'll do it. Just trust me. I'm going to keep doing what we weren't allowed to do." And some people don't want to hear that. They want to hear a plan, and I disagree with that. Just if he's going to do a good job. You know what I mean? Um,
I mean, he did show us
so
like in his first
yeah, he
term.
showed us. RFK will not have the experience, and Trump will probably try to outline this. Uh, um, I think Trump knows RFK is not going to get the nomination. I think RFK knows he's not going to get the nomination. I think you and I know that he knows that everyone knows he's not going to get the nomination.
Yeah, I don't think.
Right?
Yeah, I don't. I don't think when it comes to the young voters from the Democrat side, I don't think they will fall for RFK. I think they will stick around with Biden and all that.
They're blind. As long as Biden
Yeah,
dangles something else in front of them, like abortion, they'll go
yeah,
for it. They'll
yeah,
go for it.
exactly. Yeah.
All right. RFK's already said that he's not gonna take people's guns away, but that he's gonna make more gun control.
Yeah. What the fuck? No. Like,
That's what this is what I hate about conservatives. They see RFK and they forget that he's a Democrat. It's like, what does he think he's doing? He never said he's a conservative. He's running for the Democratic nomination.
it's like no, like we don't need strict gun controls. It
No,
don't
but
work.
my point is like, why are the conservatives all angry about this? He's not running as a Republican. He's running as a Democrat. Obviously, he's in favor of gun control.
Oh, okay, okay. Oh, yeah,
See my
okay. Yeah,
point?
no,
It's so
yeah, yeah,
stupid when I hear these conservatives saying that he doesn't have my vote. He doesn't have your vote at all. Like,
yeah. Right.
what are you talking about? It's so hilarious to me when
No,
I hear
I
these
don't. I don't think a lot of
idiots.
conservatives look at it that way. Like, if you're a conservative, you have to vote conservative. If that's your policy, if that's your view. They just think I think they just vote like independents do.
But
That's
my question is
I think
did
that's
you
how it works.
why who had these expectations? Who rose your expectations for RFK this way?
Hmm.
Why did you think RFK was going to be he is pro Second Amendment. He did say he likes the Second Amendment, but he does believe we have to do some things to be on which means gun control, which is okay. That's a Democrat. We can disagree. You don't have to be united on everything. That's the beauty of life. You don't have to agree on everything. Like it's already enough. Be grateful there's a Democrat that's reasonable enough. You know what I mean? Like be grateful.
Yeah, yeah.
Be great. At least we're not stuck with Marianne as the second alternative. Marianne's insane. Um, and so no, I think he'll be Trump will be in trouble, but I think Trump knows that he's not going to get the nomination. So I think that's why he keeps saying all these compliments to him because he wants the Democrats to look bad. He knows what he's doing. He knows what he's doing. And so
That's smart, actually. Yeah.
yeah, no, yeah, Trump's very smart. People don't put it. He's very good at strategizing. He's very good.
Yeah.
People forget the campaign is mostly Trump. You can look at all the campaign people he has. The election was won because of Trump, and it was lost because of the staffers, and because the staffers were bad and didn't help Trump when he needed it. So but Trump, I think Trump would suffer a little bit if the Democrats got behind RFK and gave him the support they give Biden. Yeah, he'd be in trouble. He'd be in trouble. Because RFK is different than Biden. RFK is younger, he's energetic. Yeah, he has the voice,
Yeah.
but that won't stop him. And he's real. He's real. So he's like a Trump. He's like a Trumpian Democrat. You know what I mean?
Hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But the Democrats won't let RFK do what Trump did to the Republicans, which is take over their party. That's what they won't do. Yeah.
Right.
No, good point. Anything else?
Oh,
You only had two questions.
that was it. Yeah.
Yeah. The other thing I think that the Republicans didn't like. What's the other thing that they didn't like from what he said? It was the gun control and affirmative action. Affirmative action. So he posted something about he supports affirmative action,
Okay.
right? He supports affirmative action. He's a Democrat. Of course he will. Why do you expect him to not support affirmative action if he's a Democrat?
Mm-hmm.
Like, where did you get your who got your hopes this high? You know what I mean? Like, why did you have these high expectations? That's
Yeah,
what I
I
like.
know. I know a lot of conservatives I see on Instagram, taking pictures with RFK and talking about how RFK is like that true politician that we might need. Like,
Yeah, that's what I
I'm not gonna
laugh
name the
about.
names,
That's
but
what I
it's
laugh
like, bro,
about.
like relax. Like, you're saying you're a conservative, but
Yeah,
now
exactly.
you're, yeah, no, don't.
It's like saying you're a conservative and you like Obama because, like, why? I couldn't even find. I can't even make that analogy work. Why would a conservative like
Once you
Obama?
get to hear his policies, it's like, bro, like I didn't ask for this. Like, well, what you expect? Like, bro,
Exactly. That's my point. What did you expect? Yeah, exactly. Exactly. It's like maybe you should have researched him fully before going on this little adventure of that. I'm an RFK conservative. No, you're not. He's not a conservative. There's not a lot of conservative to him. He's gonna raise taxes. He's a Democrat. He likes high taxes on corporate and rich people. Like he's a classical liberal. He's a liberal, but in a traditional way. Not the bot corrupt Marxist liberals like these guys who are all in power, like the AOCs and the Bernies and the Elizabeth Warrens and the Obamas and the Bidens. You know what I mean?
right.
He's not progressive. He's just a good old school liberal, which we need. I like it because we need that. We need conservatives and liberals back in this country, not just conservatives against these Marxists in power. That's what I think.
It's a new fresh air right now. Like looking at RFK.
Yeah, there you go. It's fresh air. It's like yeah, there you go. We're gonna have time for another segment or no? I don't think we have enough time. We're kind of over.
Yeah, pretty much.
Yeah, so I think we're gonna end it here. Again, guys, thank you to everybody out there in Angola and in Uganda. I think I think we're gonna see what happens. I did mention last week, Candy, if you're moving into your new spot, so you're getting things situated. So the viewers, they know you weren't here last week because of that.
Yeah, I'm already here. I just need to situate with my internet and work on my mic as well. So I'm just
Yeah,
using a
we've been
webcam
having
for a mic.
difficulties. We were gonna put an episode before this, but we had difficulties. But no, so in the meantime, if anything, they were okay with just me, with solo episodes in the meantime. So, maybe we'll do something. If we get some big breaking news, we'll try to both come on. If not, if you're unavailable, I'll come on. So
Yeah,
again,
I think I'll be on a little bit more. So
yeah, yeah. Well, we're trying to get more on, put stuff more out. We know you guys need more content, so we're gonna put it out there. But again, as always, like, subscribe. If you want more content, check out our Patreon. There's a lot more funny stuff on there that you'll enjoy. It's patreon.com/for the number 4 the Republic. The link is down in our description or in the bio. Again, thank you to all our audio only listeners on Spotify, Apple, iTunes, Deezer, these nuts, TuneIn, Google Podcasts, Samsung Podcasts, etc. Appreciate you guys. Tell follow, subscribe, tell your friends, tell your strangers, just tell everybody. Just go out there, tell everybody about us. That's what I always say. And we'll be back before you know it with another great episode. And thank you guys again for listening, for watching. Can't tell you how much we appreciate you guys enough. Thanks again, and we'll see you next time.
stay racist.
There you go. What he said.